Hi guys. It was a quiet night in 1991. Tragedy happened that rocked a small village, where people live in peace. A family that seemed so happy, suddenly caught up in a cycle of violence and hatred. The choking cry for help, the hidden secrets, that led to a 30-year investigation. Who is responsible for this crime, and what's his real motive? Will justice be done, or the ghosts of the past will be forever haunt the rest? Let us explore this thrilling story together. Horror scene. The story begins 35 years ago. Gone for 6 years, a ripe 90. I just finished working at night and came home in Jianghu village, Xiantuntou, Hansun district. When he came to the door, as always, he called his family, but he called many times without seeing the A open. Jiang thought maybe his family had fallen asleep. So don't hear the call. So I didn't call. I climbed over the wall to get inside. However, when entering the scene in front of him stunned Jiang. The house is like a battlefield. His parents and sister are lying in a pool of blood. On top of the hand, their shoulders, their bellies, and their necks were all marked with axes. Before this horrible scene, Jia was in a hurry to report to the police. When the police arrived at the scene, they were also overwhelmed by the heartbreaking scene. Upon examination, the police confirmed the victim, Savage, with daughter from honor. All 3 victims were killed by the unsub using the weapon. Based on the injury, the police speculated the victim was attacked while sleeping, in a state of unpreparedness. When the police asked if he had any suspicions, he immediately mentioned the name of Kan. Relatives in the family from also confirmed, surely the man named Lin Kan committed the crime. So who is the Kan Lam? Why do victims and their families trust you? He's the unsub. Through investigation, the police found out that she was the ex-husband. Weak benefit a year ago. She was married to a man in the next village. However, their married life was not peaceful. They have a bad reputation in the village, strong rape, often bullying others. His wife was also regularly beaten by her husband. Once after an argument, Kan could not control his anger but took advantage. Get you in the hospital. Since then, they can no longer tolerate violence. She applied to the Hansun District People's Court. Request a divorce from Kan. After considering, District Court Sun has issued a divorce ruling for 2 people. In April 1990, however, what was unexpected was that after the Kan has come to the house many times to cause trouble. And before the case happened, his neighbors have seen him many times. Based on these testimonies, the police believe Kan has a serious suspicion of the crime. They decided to arrest him immediately. However, when we got to the police found out that he had escaped a long time ago. And yet they found a bloody axe. And the blood-stained clothes he changed out of the house. After comparing fingerprints and bloodstains, the police confirmed that Kan was the perpetrator of this case. Immediately, Hansun police divided into several to track him down at the Ga houses, train station, cars, buses, and houses of friends and relatives that can hide. However, the methods of investigation at although the suspect has been identified, but the arrest is still difficult. The case of 30 years. The police have not stopped their efforts, but the light seems to have disappeared without leaving a trace. Time is running out. 35 after the police still can't find a clue. They even doubted whether Kan was alive or not. At that point, the case suddenly changed. 10/2020, the South Korean police are once again investigating. In the process, a police officer accidentally spotted the name is Strong. Resident. I used to work in the field. Looks very similar to Kan. The police speculated Kan may have faked his name to escape the crime. Bring this question. The police immediately went to the police station. They know this man by the name of the Strong, from the upper city, Jiangxi province. He rented a house in the cemetery from 2011 to 2014, even though he and the suspect look alike. But due to lack of evidence, the police are not sure. Is he a criminal in the forest? So the police went to where he used to live. Take his picture and ask each neighbor. Someone finally realized it was the mighty who lived here. When the police heard this, in their hearts they are not happy. After 35 cases finally got a clue. But I can't breathe. The host's next sentence was like a cold water ladle. So I really rented a house here. Not alone but with his wife. Son, daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren, total 6 people. They moved out in 2014 and didn't come back. This surprised the police. And to be clear, they've checked the Strong's household information. After checking, the police found something suspicious. Photo on the identification card of Strong and not the same residence paper. This means that the Strong are actually impersonated. Now just find out Strong. Then all problems will be solved. But since 2014, Strong turned on the news. The police don't know how to find him. While the police are desperately searching, a police officer thought of something. He lives with someone who is supposed to be his family. If not found strong, they can investigate from the family. Maybe there will be information. This was immediately agreed upon by the entire police force. The police have conducted a search and know the woman who lives with Strong as a wife named Corn East Flower, come from above, Jiangxi province. As soon as you get this information, police immediately headed to the residence of NGO Dong Ho to investigate. However, the investigation results again. The police were stunned. How much the police said. From the ripe year 90 to 2014, Ken really lives with the wife of the strong winter corn, and the son is the hero. The hero was only 3 years old, so the lack of judgment is normal. However, at NGO Dong Ho left, she impersonated her husband and lived together for 15 years. After finding out, the police found out in the 90s. In the village there appeared a wanderer. He claims to be what the villagers call a cowboy. Then the strength is weak, the family lacks labor, so the couple decided to have an affair. At first the couple were happy. They think that geography helps the family. It's a good thing both sides. But who thinks this wanderer is a killer? The man whose real name is Ken is hiding, and the fact that they put wolves in their homes to the scourge of weak strength and health. Agricultural work in the house mainly thanks Flowers and Ken. Two people work together every day. Ken gradually developed feelings with Ho. He often tries to get close. It's not just rude words, but there's also indecent behavior. Even once he took advantage when you go out to work, to rape you. My husband is weak and my son is young. Even if you tell your family, no one can help you. In the end, you can only endure. But your patience. Help for the inappropriate actions of Ken. He relies on his strength. The behavior of winter corn is more and more excessive. This condition lasted for years, until their relationship was discovered by a villager. The criticism: the villagers were unable to stay in the village. So, he tricked Ho into accompanying him to the cemetery in Zhejiang province. This information from the villagers made the police very happy. The investigation team showed the villagers a picture and get confirmation. The wanderer of the small that year was the suspect. According to the memories of previous villagers, he pretended to go to work, but never came back. At the end of 2014, Ho is back home and come back with a son. Hero 10-5. Meanwhile, Ken disappears without a trace. However, the sudden return of Ho and her make the police feeling abnormal. They guess there must be something between these three. So the scene, the police decided to look for information. Ho and her is the hero of Heave. Evil Leopard. To solve this mystery, the police split into a team looking for Wintercore. The rest of the team is looking for a hero. Facing the police, she admitted that she had lived with Ken for many years. He always hides his real name. As far as you are concerned, you have the same view. But when it comes to the most important thing, the whereabouts of Ken, Ho's and Fee's statements are contradictory. According to Africa, at the end of 2014, you and Ken had a fight. Then he went to Fujian alone to relax. When it comes to meaning, Ken has left, so you don't know his whereabouts. If it's true what Africa says, Ken is once again out of sight of the police. However, when comparing the testimony, the police found something unusual, because Wintercorn seems distracted when answering, and your answer is also very vague. From their answers, the police concluded the disappearance of Ken is definitely related to this person. So the police immediately took Ho and Fi back to Korea, pained for further investigation. Finally, under the patient persuasion of the police, HOA reveals the whereabouts of Ken. Ho's testimony made the police present extremely surprised. She said Ken was no more. He was beaten to death by his own son. This time the scene, the police are somewhat suspicious of Ho's testimony, so they point the arrow at to see if this guy's testimony matches up. In the midst of the police's relentless pursuit, Africa finally tells the truth. Since your mother ran away with you, Africa is always in pain. Your classmates often make fun of you. Tell your mother to leave with beggars. These sufferings make the character of the non-lonely. You can't forgive Ken for taking your mother and destroying her family, so the seeds of vengeance sprout. As an adult, she also started a family and had children. Create your own home. Right now, you don't want to have anything to do with Ken. However, since marriage, my wife and I make very little money. When you have children, the burden of life gets heavier. So I took my wife and I went to her mother's house, and what they didn't expect was this journey leads them down a path of no escape, even though they live under the same roof. But you always feel bad, disgusted with the person who destroyed his child. Ken is very lazy. Every day, stealing doesn't work. Even if you find a job sometime, he also regularly cheats. He lives like a man who doesn't sit still. So the family's mainly based on Fi and HOA. However, Khan's attitude to Ho is very bad. He often beats you. I have asked you many times to take your mother away from this, but every time, your threats scare you. Ken once said he killed people in Anhui, so he's not afraid to continue. Kill a few more. At first, he just boasted, but after seeing his metamorphosis, you're really scared? Do that. Their lives are in a state of anxiety every day. You have to suffer and you can be killed. But what you never expected was the ring. You have to give up in exchange for serious consequences. One day 2014 Fai-Ten-Si at home. When he got to the door, he heard his wife cry. He rushed in to ask what was wrong. I walked in and saw the inside. You're almost crazy. African wife and dressed. Next to Ken, he's pulling his pants on his face. And he looks happy. See that scene? She was so angry that she couldn't control it. You knew early on that Ken was not a decent person. There have been a few times before. He wants to fuck your wife, but did not expect. He used your absence to rape you. And that very night my wife left the house. Since then there has been no news. The shame makes Africa mad. Think back over the years. How much harm is done to yourself and your family? The anger built up so long that you suffocated. And finally that night, the water is filled with hatred. Your heart moves you against the killer. The night the case happened, the whole family is eating. Ken is happy to drink. Suddenly, he found Africa's son dropping food. The table is unreasonably angry. He threw the stick he was holding at the boy. But that's not enough. He slapped the baby hard in the face. I can't help but look at that scene anymore. The fact that his wife was humiliated made him angry. Now even your son is being tortured for no reason. Get up and fight with Ken. According to Fai, at the time, I just wanted to teach no intention of killing him, but the next morning, he was horrified to find out when Ken had died. To cover things up, Africa carries Khan's body to a wasteland on the outskirts of the city, buried. And then the police conducted a full-scale search. However, due to the time it's been a long time and the search was very difficult. Finally, after 70 hours of relentless the police found Khan's body in a corner. Ken caused death for his ex-wife's family. He paid for the crime though. They are ready to take revenge. He also leaves his hands covered in blood. The press didn't mention how Fai was later tried, but it's hard to give you clemency by the law. It leaves deep wounds that can't be erased. Silence and humility in the face of wrong acts can lead to serious consequences that we can't anticipate. And you, what do you think about the relationships in the department? This is not. In the north of Hong Kong's new territories is Tenille. There's a village called Duong Bin nearby. This is a beautiful village with mountains and rivers green as a mosaic of pleasant scenery, but due to its proximity to the Chinese relatively sparsely populated. From 15 years ago, there's a lot of spiritual stories that are passed down. This life passed away. People tell each other when the wedge comes down, a girl's soul will appear, wandering near the bamboo forest. Some people even heard the cry, like tearing meat in the middle of the night. These events, people think it is closely related to a case, murder case, bizarre. They link them together and create countless stories and spooky rumors. The source of stories and events took place in the year 1981. There was a terrible tragedy and engraved in the hearts of the memory is not good. And now I invite you to listen to this story. I hope you will support the video, like and subscribe to the channel. If you have not registered, thank you very much. A 29-year-old woman. He originally lived in the First County. Her father was a street vendor. The brothers and sisters in the house are very harmonious. Year 1979. She's a year older than you. They love each other and get married. After stabilizing, they moved to the stone house. No. 60 on the slopes of Duong Bin New Village. So let's build a home together. In the end, their love came to fruition. They have 2 children together. 2 years older than me, just a few months. However, then the family of 4 has 1 more small member. The girl's name is Mo Yuluan. Everyone calls you Lun. The 6-year-old is the daughter of a former wife. It is said that not long after the birth of Zilu, they divorced because of dissent. The court ruled the daughter was raised by the mother, and the father must suffer monthly allowance for the little girl. 2 years after the divorce, even though China is known, it's like his ex-wife has built a new family. So he asked to be allowed to raise his daughter. You take the fairies as your wife. It's also about building a happy family and hope to make up for the loss, motherly love for the baby. His wife also considers him as her son. Love the little girl so much. This is a family of 5. But the Chinese came to South Africa to make a living. Leave your wife in a remote house, far from the city. However, thanks to the hard work of the Chinese, the family had a full life, and we rarely have to worrying about money. 16 6 years 19 Teferi is a sister. You have to go back to your parents to help out for my sister's wedding. Due to inconvenience, so she left her 3 children to her brother. I care. My brothers and they sisters always have a good relationship with each other. I often visit your family. Whenever you have a vacation, sometimes you stay for a few days. You're also happy to help. Things like taking care of the garden. Help your sister. In fact, it's a 13-year-old. But it's quite tall. The wedding went well. After a night of drinking, thanks for drinking a lot. So she spent the night at her mother's house in King's Landing. Until noon the next day, you're still in bed and you can't get up. Suddenly, I called her in a panic and said that she was gone. You changed color. It seemed that the sound of the wine had flown away immediately. She kept asking me what happened. God says that after hours, I didn't see her coming home after school. When the elves returned to Duangbin village, it's about 4 p.m. You and your wife go through this house, go to another house and ask the villagers and the neighbors. No result. They decided to go to kindergarten, where Ziluan is studying, but the answer made the fairies crumble. The school's teacher said, Len didn't go to school that day. Aware of the serious situation, they immediately called the police. Even though she's just a stepmother, but the mood of the fairies, it's burning like a fire, as if it's my blood. At first, the police thought it was a missing person, but after a few days, there's still no clue or news of Ziluan. The devil is also worried about losing sleep. Also, I can't tell my husband I'm in South Africa. As the situation gets worse, the investigation room of the counter police took over the case, and the investigation was led by Detective Yang Yukdong, Inspector Tru Lunman, Inspector HOA. At 4 p.m. on June 25th, the genie was summoned to the police. At the same time, the police sent officers to Yangping, San'an County King to investigate. At 5:15 p.m., something new happened. In the garden behind the dowager's house, in the new village of Duangbin, there's a place where the weeds are particularly sparse. The soil there is a slight overturned trace. It looks like a tomb. And what's more suspicious is that the land is still new. There's obviously a human impact. Detective Young Copper started digging up suspicious soil. I saw a human head start to rot, decomposed and filled with maggots. Maybe the victim died long before the detective. This discovery. Preliminary analysis according to the size of the skull. The police left speculation. This is the missing daughter of the fairies. So where are the other parts? Tried, but the police couldn't find it. The police have invited the elves to judge. From the facial contours you heard, it was identified as Zilun, who disappeared 8 days ago. When the victim disappeared, she was in the country on June 17th. Police say this is a murder. At the same time, the police found the Heather in Wang Daxian district and take him back to the station for questioning. At first, the police politely asked, but the expression of euphoria is rather puzzling. He said she went to school as usual that morning, but by the time I got out of school, I didn't see Ziluan coming back. This strange attitude Sao can get past the police. He grabbed the boy by the neck and interrogated him. The other hand wants to punch you in the face, even if it is only a baby. Under the bombardment of questions, the police officer's indignant determination, he looks like he's about to cry. The police didn't go around yelling at him. Tell me if you killed her. You're such a cute girl and you're cruel. Tell me where your conscience is. The question is choking. He doesn't give any space. Broken down and sat down and cried. He bowed his face. It's as if you're feeling remorse to the extreme. Finally, God told me what happened. On that day, on the night of June 16th, after dinner, he took a bath for Shaolun according to his sister's instructions. While the barbarians were drying Cho Shaolun, accidentally touching some parts, sensitivity on her body. Out of curiosity. After taking a shower, she changed her clothes. To scold. Suddenly she punches a very painful blow in the face. Instinctively he pushed her. Ziluan fell and hit his head and the rock on the ground. Ziluan motionless. The psychopath thinks she's just trying to scare you, so ignore it and go to bed. It's about 4 a.m. I woke up suddenly remembering what happened. You immediately run out into Then I found out that Shaylin was still there. He kicked Ziluan's leg, but she didn't react. When you touch with your hand, my body was cold. She's not breathing anymore. The utmost fear rises, so he decided to destroy the body. He dragged the body to the back garden. I want to burn to ashes. Maybe the garden was too wet, so he had to dig a hole with a pickaxe, buried the body. It's not possible at this point to convict anyone of a crime. After identifying the culprit, he was immediately pressured to the scene in Duong Bin to recreate the case. Upon arrival, it led the police to another part of the hill, in the back yard, and found the rest of the body. But the body was divided into parts. He uses a kitchen knife to easily dissect the victim and tried to cut off her arm. But he doesn't know how to give up. After a few cuts, next is cutting your hand. Burn them into ash and mix them with soil. So the first sow and the body of the accident, he was buried into different places. The Thai creator said that the first part looks horrible. I just want to be buried as soon as possible. Other trees are too hard to dig. In addition, the barbarians also carry as a school uniform of the Lun. School couple black leather shoes up the burning hill. They create fake stories that the victim went to school and disappeared. Let the police be suspicious. Next, the police collected 10 pieces of land suspected of being Cho in the backyard. Saying that time, I also found a small object partly on the hill. After the case came to light, the police officer couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Is this what a 13-year-old can do? It's almost 9 p.m. Strong medical examiner Hu Kwon to the scene and conduct a preliminary examination. Determined that the time of death was more than a week, and the police suspect even Ziluan was raped. We have to wait for the results from France. You can confirm. As the case comes to an end, an unusual detail was discovered. That makes the case a big deal. There was a deep hole in the victim's head. It's probably caused by a sharp weapon like a wand. It's this. Move the investigation to the charge of intentional murder is a murder, instead of police officers. Police then 6 searched the house and found a kitchen knife, an iron hose about 2 sickles long. All it is believed to have been used as a murder weapon. Before this terrible discovery, the police and the people couldn't believe it. In response to Gao's harsh interrogation, I keep saying I don't know. This kid is so shy. He said it might have been the head of Ziluan hitting the rock. The facts of the case seem more complicated than imagined. It does not exclude the possibility of an mastermind. June 2nd, 7. He was charged with murder by police in court. The 13-year-old is charged with murder. It's probably never on the record. The case in Hong Kong. But there are still stories behind. It doesn't stop at this tragic case. Stepmom Taizia. He always shows that he is very good to you. Although it's a bit strict, but she's completely taken for granted. But an unexpected truth is revealed. According to Ziluan's grandmother, she was the mother of the middle. That's not true at all. My granddaughter had a life when she changed her environment. It's not good to be with you. In addition to lacking many things. Not enough food, not enough sleep. The poor girl was even beaten up. This condition occurs more and more often. After her father went to South Africa working, she said that even her granddaughter in a full house, but she's like an orphan. Her words were later confirmed. In the kindergarten where Ziluan studied, the school confirmed she passed out in school twice because of hunger and cold and fall into a coma. The doctor then confirmed, due to excessive hunger and her body is completely exhausted. Judging from the economic situation of this situation is really confusing. These days, the happiest time of the year. It can only be found on campus. Smiling face, precious little girl, can be seen when talking to teachers and classmates. It's sad when the child is naive, lovely and worthy of happiness. OT just deprived of childhood, but also to suffer. Even when she died, the body is also not intact. Her grandmother told me my niece's story. I remember her crying out loud. She believes that a series of actions, that terrible case, it can't be done by a 13-year-old. She insisted that there was an accomplice. He even ordered the boy, and she kept saying it was her second daughter-in-law. She is also the stepmother of the fairy. As mentioned since the death of the lily, the place where she's buried is rumored to be haunted. And then everyone came together and invited the monk. He died at the school before he died, and there doesn't seem to be anything unusual happened after that. However, families that live close to the heathen family, I hear the cry of children every night. About 10 months after their tragedy, on 14 quarters of 982, the trial opened in the Supreme Court. The prosecutor changed the charge. Murder first becomes manslaughter, and the prosecutor presented all the facts of the case, alleges that the accused committed manslaughter. At the same time, medical officials said they could not determine the cause of death because the body is severely swollen and decomposed. The trial ended after 3 days. The jury agreed, pardoned for being underage for not being a minor, without additional judgment. Maybe the facts of the case aren't that simple. Maybe it'll sink forever into oblivion, and it's not well understood. The bright future of the poor girl. Now there's only ashes. It's a shame for a human being. But I believe the law exists. Even though the killer was young, one day, maybe the hidden corners of the case are exposed. The criminal will pay the price. And maybe then the nightly cry will die down. And that's the story of today. Do you have any thoughts? Comment below. If you like us and subscribe to our channel, thank you very much. Hello and see you later.